My name is Amy Miller. I'm a 32-year-old who has been married for 7 years. My husband is a kind and hardworking man, and we've had a trouble-free life together. I only took maternity leave and have continued working ever since. We're what you'd call a dual-income family. Even before we had a child, my husband Owen was involved in parenting, and after becoming a dad, he helped even more with daycare drop-offs and household chores. I always thought I was more blessed than most wives out there. Then our child turned 6 and was about to start elementary school. I began to notice something wrong with my husband's health. "Why don't you go to the doctor?" But he didn't go because he was too busy with work. By the time he was willing to go, he was diagnosed with end-stage renal failure and needed a kidney transplant. His strength declined gradually, and as he became unable to work, he was forced to retire, and he couldn't even take care of our child properly anymore. As a result, everything fell on my shoulders, and I was spinning with the busyness of work, house chores, childcare, and taking care of my husband. My husband would whisper "I'm sorry" in a weak voice, which was heartbreaking, and I pushed myself even harder. But no matter how hard I tried, the mind and body are separate, and my body started to scream in pain. That's when my mother-in-law brought up the idea of living together. "It's too much for you to handle alone, isn't it?" Indeed, I felt I was nearing my limit. My mother-in-law lost my father-in-law soon after we got married and has been living alone ever since. She must feel lonely, but she never complains, and whenever I visit her, she greets me with joy. I can't even begin to express my gratitude to my mother-in-law, who gets along with me so well, it's like we're friends. Tears flowed from the sheer difficulty of it all when she offered to move in. Living with my mother-in-law turned out to be a blessing beyond what I had imagined. While I was out working during the day, she would take care of the housework and the kids. My first grader daughter didn't feel lonely, thanks to her. Snacks were always homemade, and my mother-in-law would help her with her homework. She tended to my husband as well, encouraging him to do what he could on his own, but it seemed she often had to step in because he easily grew tired. When I got home, I would take over, but since I could do things faster than my husband could help, I often let him rest. Maybe that was my mistake, because gradually he stopped doing anything at all. "I'm just feeling really sluggish." Unaware that it was just an excuse from my husband, I accepted it all, thinking he was ill. But it seemed like he believed that if he said so, he wouldn't have to do anything. As he did less and less, he began to look for distractions outside the home. While searching for a donor, my husband started going for dialysis 3 times a week. At first, during his 3 weekly hospital visits, he apparently went to the arcade and roamed around various places. He seemed apologetic each time, but he must have believed that my words, "That's great. You have enough energy to go to the arcade," meant that I was okay with him playing around. This way, he increasingly turned his attention outward, and before I knew it, he left everything to my mother-in-law and did as he pleased when he felt well. "I can't blame him, he's sick after all," I kept telling myself. No matter how tough it got, even when I was too exhausted to move, I kept telling myself, "I'm still okay, I can do this." Then one day, we got the call from the hospital they had found a donor. And it turned out that the donor was me. "Please, Amy, give me your kidney." Upon learning that I could be a donor, my husband begged me on his knees. I was delighted at the thought of my beloved husband getting better. But if I stopped working, our family would quickly be in dire straits. There were risks involved with the kidney removal surgery, I was told by the doctors. Was it really okay for me to be the donor? But if it makes him well again? I'm his wife, after all. With that excuse, I went through with the surgery. My husband cried with joy, thinking he'd get better. "No more dialysis after this. Once the surgery's over, I'll be back to my old self." Not a single word of thanks was there for me. The surgery was a success. After a few days in the hospital, I went back to work. However, I had naively underestimated the risks the doctor had mentioned. I thought it couldn't happen to me. But even before my husband was discharged, a growing fatigue began to assault my body. "What's this?" I couldn't afford to be anxious. Why is so much of my hair falling out? Every morning, clumps of hair would come out as I brushed. Fear began to consume me. By the time my husband was discharged, my fear had turned into something much greater, but I had no time to think about myself. You should help out with the housework as part of your rehabilitation, my mother-in-law would say, but Owen was as if carried by the wind, always out playing. Instead of helping, he would look at me and say, "What's that on your head? It's disgusting," mocking my thinning hair. And then one day, he threw his last words at me. "I'm divorcing you, you sick bald woman. I'm starting a new life." I was stunned by his words. "What do you mean?" Just back from work and still in my clothes, I was so shocked I couldn't stand. "What about your mother?" "That's right, I have to tell her about such important matters." "What are you talking about? This is a matter between husband and wife. It's got nothing to do with Mom." "But she's helped us so much." "You might have been saved, but I don't care. Anyway, I'm divorcing you." Why all of a sudden?" My head was spinning. I just needed my mother-in-law. I thought she could calmly analyze the situation. But as soon as I got home, she had gone out shopping. That's right, she said she was going out for dinner shopping. The moment I thought I had no one on my side, all the efforts I had made came crashing down. I have to solve this myself. I can't accept such an unreasonable proposal. It's not right for Violet if we get a divorce. I thought of our elementary school-aged daughter. But it seemed my husband wasn't thinking about that at all. "Look, I've gotten this healthy, but look at you. That monstrous head of yours. It's unbearable to look at." "But this happened because I gave you a kidney." "So what? Don't act like you're doing me a favor." "Sure, I asked for a kidney, but if I'd known you'd go bald, I would never have asked." "How can you say that? I didn't choose to go bald." After all the pain I went through to help this man. "You've been thinking this the whole time since you got out of the hospital?" "Yeah, I have. It's been torture seeing you every day. To think of waking up next to a monster for the rest of my life. It's just disgusting." "That's cruel, after I gave you my kidney." "You're gonna say that?" "Sure, I asked for it, but who would have thought it would turn you into a monster?" "But still." "Just sign the divorce papers, all right. Here, sign this." "Sign." What Owen had carelessly tossed to me was a set of divorce papers. Moreover, they were already signed and stamped with his name. "Once you sign this, we're strangers." "That'll be a relief, won't it?" "But what about Violet? She's still in elementary school. Wouldn't she be sad if her parents got divorced?" "She'll forget about it soon enough. It's no big deal. Better a younger and prettier woman as a mother than a monster like you." "What do you mean by that?" "I mean, once I'm divorced from you, I can find a new love. Then I can remarry a beautiful woman." "Are you saying you've been cheating?" "Why would you think that? You think I'd have time to cheat while I was sick?" Sure, normally one wouldn't have the time to cheat. But looking back, it seemed he spent too much time away from the family. But nothing. Don't accuse me of things that aren't true. You're a monster who's jealous for no reason. How much more disgusting can you get? Just sign the divorce papers already." "Wait, you can't just spring this on me." "It's not sudden. Since I got sick, I've really thought about it. It's a waste of time to stay with an old wife like you. I've always hated how you made me feel indebted. I decided in my heart that I'd divorce you once I got well." "Once you got well? Is that why you asked me for a kidney?" "I didn't necessarily need your kidney. Any would have done, but it just so happened that yours was available. It's only sensible to use what's usable." "With such a cavalier attitude. I've taken on so many risks because of this." "So what? You were informed about the risks at the hospital, weren't you? You decided to go through with it anyway, didn't you?" "I didn't force you." "Yeah, but if I'm gone, who's going to work and take care of this house?" "Don't worry, you don't need to think about that. I'm healthy now. I can work and provide for the family." Even when you keep saying every day how sluggish and feverish you feel? You're going to work like that? Yeah, I'll be fine. I'm sure I'll be back to my full strength soon. Then I can find a job again and start supporting the family. So you're that healthy now? But you haven't done anything yourself. You let Mom and me do everything. That's because you wanted to do it all. You always said you could do it faster yourself. It's true, but it was Owen who was content to let it be that way. So, once you sign that, you can get out. Get out? Why? Obviously. Once you sign it, you're a stranger to me. It'd be weird for a stranger to live in my family home. It's only natural that you're the one to leave. But what about Violet? You can't just tell me to leave all of a sudden. I have nowhere to go. What are you talking about? It's obvious Violet stays here. I can't leave my child with a woman who doesn't even have a place to live. So, it was all planned out. Owen had me donate a kidney just so he could kick me out once he started feeling better. I was just conveniently used. I was completely dejected and unable to think when my mother-in-law walked into the room. I'm home. Oh, what's wrong? Looking for rescue in the face of my returned mother-in-law, I saw a young woman standing next to her. Hey! Why are you in the house? I told you to wait outside. Well, I couldn't help it. Your mom told me to come in. You have to listen to your future mother-in-law, right? Future mother-in-law? Idiot. Don't say weird things. Mom, why did you even let her in the house? Well, when I came back from shopping, this girl was standing outside. When I asked what she wanted, she said she knew you. So naturally, I told her to come in. What's wrong with that? Isn't that what you'd expect? Indeed, that's expected. If someone is said to be acquainted with my husband, they would be let in. But this woman, who's said to be an acquaintance. What kind of acquaintance is she? Weren't you just an acquaintance? That is. Well, more than an acquaintance, I'm his girlfriend. And soon, I'll be family to your mother-in-law. What is this girl talking about? That is. Come on, Owen, say it clearly. That I'm your girlfriend and we're promised to marry. You've been cheating. But you just said you didn't have time for that? That is. That's why. Why did you come into the house just because you were invited? Well, I wanted to see the bald-headed monster for myself. Owen said his wife's head has become so bald, she looks like a monster or a goblin. It's disgusting to think of being with that for the rest of his life. How could you say such a thing? No, Mom, it's not like that. So, since you're getting divorced and she's leaving this house, I won't get to see such a monster again. I was curious to see how much of a monster she is. And then, what a pity, she's wearing a wig. So, my husband and his mistress have been laughing at me? Are you saying you've been cheating? And that's why you want to divorce Amy? That's a divorce paper there, isn't it? No, that is. Amy, do you agree with this? Mom. I was just suddenly told about it. So, I'm in a panic right now. I don't understand what's happening. After all the devoted care she's given you while you were sick. What have you been doing? And he's telling me, after we get divorced, I have to leave this house. But I have nowhere to go. I can't give up Violet. Of course. Why would I let a child go to such a terrible man who can do things like this? But Mom, if you give Amy the child, I won't be able to see Violet anymore? I'm saying I'll take Violet for your sake. My mother-in-law was silent for a while, but when she spoke, it was something unexpected. Amy, sign the divorce papers. Mom. I thought, so I'm just the daughter-in-law after all. But then my mother-in-law said something completely different. If you sign the divorce papers, it's you who's leaving. Why should I leave? Whose house is this? That's Mom's. So that means I decide who lives in this house, doesn't it? I want to live with Amy. I don't want to live with a young woman who goes after someone else's husband. What's with this old lady? And about Violet. There's no way a woman who spews such nastiness can take care of a child. Besides, you're unemployed. An unemployed person with no fixed address can't raise a child. So, it should be Amy who takes custody of the child. That's absurd, Mom. What's the problem? You've been using your illness as an excuse not to do anything around the house. You hardly even look after Violet. Moreover, since you've been discharged, you've just been selfishly yelling around. Can't you see that Violet is scared of you? Why? Parents get angry sometimes, don't they? You're just shouting for no reason. Of course the child is frightened. That's not what being a parent is about. You're the one who has to leave. Mom, you're not on my side? I'm on the side of what's right. You're wrong. You betrayed a dedicated wife like Amy. How could I possibly be on your side? Damn it! Fine then. Owen grabbed the signed divorce papers and left with the woman. After they left, my mother-in-law kneeled down and apologized to me. I'm so sorry. I never knew he would do such a stupid thing. He didn't understand at all how much you struggled to take care of him. I can't ask for forgiveness, but please. You've done nothing wrong. Please lift your face. I'm sorry, it's my fault for raising him wrong. That's not true. My kind mother-in-law apologized again and again, blaming her upbringing. How could the child of such a kind person turn out like this? Every time I remembered my former husband, I just couldn't understand where things went wrong. 3 months later. As usual, living with my mother-in-law and Violet, I received a call from my ex-husband Owen. But I couldn't bring myself to answer the phone and just ignored it, yet Owen left a message. Thinking I might as well listen to it, I played the message, and it was as selfish as ever. Why aren't you picking up the phone? I'm in a serious situation here. Turns out I have liver disease now. I need another transplant. Your liver would be perfect for me. So give me your liver. Then I can be healthy again. Please, pick up the phone. My ex-husband sounded almost hysterical. I thought to myself how utterly selfish he was. When I told my mother-in-law, she looked pained. What do you think, Amy? I'm sorry to say this, but Owen is a stranger to me now. After everything he's said and done, I can't bring myself to give anything to him. Of course. You're not wrong. That must be divine punishment. I'm sorry. Don't apologize. I'm sure if you gave your liver, he wouldn't be grateful. Besides, if you were to get sick from the donation, it would be terrible for Violet. You're making the right decision. It's okay, that's the way it should be. If he contacts you again, just tell him straight. Thank you. And if God forgives, surely a donor will be found. If not, that's the punishment he's been given, it can't be helped. My mother-in-law said this with sad eyes. It was a hard choice for her, thinking of her son. It was a hard choice for her, thinking of her son. Yet, the pain of not being able to do that must be immeasurable. But she knew that even if I did donate, Owen's character wouldn't change. Continuing to be selfish and hurting me and my family, I found myself wishing he would just suffer alone. Then there was another contact from my husband. The number of calls was devilishly high, and the voicemails were full of bitterness because I wasn't answering. Out of frustration for not answering the calls, Owen came to our house. As before, when I returned from work, my mother-in-law had gone shopping, and I was alone in the house. I felt a slight fear of Owen's actions, as if he was intentionally waiting for my mother-in-law to be out. Hey, Amy. Owen, who greeted me with those words, looked gaunt and his complexion was poor. It seemed like his illness had advanced significantly. Why the hell aren't you answering your phone? Why would I? I don't want to talk to you. But I left you a message. I heard it. Then why didn't you respond? I didn't see the need to. I'm begging you, why won't you help me? It didn't seem like begging, and even if it was, I have no intention of being your donor. Why not? I don't have much time left. My condolences. I'm still alive. That's unfortunate. Please, give me your liver. No, thank you. Why the hell not? Don't you understand why? Think about what you did to me after I gave you my kidney. That couldn't be helped. I don't think it was unavoidable at all. No matter how much you beg, I won't become your donor. If I did and something happened to me, you would just play ignorant, wouldn't you? If you need a liver that badly, ask her. Nora left me when she found out I was sick. She dumped me and left. Well, that's tough. But it's what you deserve. Don't say that. Being divorced means I'm alone. You have no idea how hard it is to endure feeling sluggish every day and still have to work. I understand. I gave you a kidney, remember? I still feel sluggish from that. Yet, I do the housework, take care of the child, and work. I think I have it harder than you. Then, I'll remarry you. I'll overlook your baldness. Marry me, give me your liver, and I'll work this time. That way, you can take it easy, right? Time out. I'm not relying on you. And marry me as if it's a favor from you? How can you even say that when you're in trouble? I won't give you my liver. Don't come back. Don't be like that. If you keep this up, I'll call the police, got it? Hearing the word police, Owen fled like he was running away. I thought that would be the last of it, but Owen had more outrageous plans. That happened a few days later. My mother-in-law contacted me to say that hadn't returned from school. Violet hasn't come back? Yes, she's usually back by this time. But she's nowhere to be found. I've looked everywhere. For a moment, Owen's face flashed through my mind. But surely he wouldn't take his own child. I dismissed the thought, but then Owen called. If you want Violet back, give me your liver. What? Owen? Yes, that's right. You must be worried about Violet, right? Give me your liver, and I'll bring her back. Violet must be the most important thing to you. How could you kidnap a child? I've only taken my own child. This isn't kidnapping. Unfortunately for you, we're divorced, and I have custody. A stranger taking a child is definitely kidnapping. I'm calling the police. You're prepared for that, right? Why does it end up like this? I just want your liver. I never thought of kidnapping. It's too late. If you had given me your liver, I wouldn't have had to do this. It's your fault, isn't it? Don't blame others for everything. You cheated and abandoned your family, and when you got sick, you expect help. And when things don't go your way, you kidnap your child. That's unforgivable. Why are you getting so angry? It's your fault. Enough. I hung up the phone and immediately contacted the police to report my child was kidnapped. The police quickly deployed to Owen's apartment and rescued my child. Violet came back to me with tears streaming down her face, clinging to me and crying. Afterward, Owen, who was arrested, reached out through his lawyer asking for forgiveness. It seemed he truly regretted it. What should I do? That's up to you, Amy. I'm his mother. I'd be happy if he's forgiven, but I also understand if you don't want to forgive. I can't tell you what to do. You're right. If I prioritized my feelings, I couldn't possibly forgive him. Since that incident, Violet has been afraid to go out alone. Considering he's her father, it's terrible to think what must have happened to make her so afraid. But Violet doesn't say anything when asked. Still, when I think of my mother-in-law. After carrying this maze-like worry for months, I ultimately decided to settle. Owen, having been released from detention, bowed deeply, apologizing. And then he started asking to remarry. I said selfish things about remarrying. I regret it. But in the police cell, I realized what I really need is Amy. Amy needs me too, right? Without me, it just won't do. So, if we remarry, I'm the best choice, right? Then you can take care of me again. I have no intention of remarrying. Why not? I care so much about you. While asking to remarry, his words betrayed that it wasn't really about remarriage. He's scheming to use me under the guise of remarrying.
Stop it. I'll never marry you again.
Since he brought up the issue of being a donor again, after discussing with my mother-in-law, I decided to move with my daughter. Learning of my move, my ex-husband became frantic, searching for me, but ultimately, he succumbed to his illness, passing away in fear. As for me, even though I left the in-laws' house, I keep in touch with my mother-in-law, and she even comes over to stay sometimes. I'm planning to buy a house where I can live with my mother-in-law once I've saved enough money.